not been to Minnesota in probably 20 years.
Bring gas. Welcome to Flagrant Howls, a Minnesota Timberwolves lifestyle podcast.
Night. You got to take a little nap there, sports dad, because it's 9 o'clock. I know it goes against your regular season, especially start time. Yeah. Although this is a primer for the playoffs too, because the Wolves always get stuck with like the 8:45, 9:30-ish tips. It's a 9 o'clock tip against the Nuggets on ESPN tonight. Strap in.
It's going to be great. I will say that. Like, it's going to be fun. I am glad that they are finally playing well consistently. They've played well before. I'm glad that they're finally playing well consistently. And I do think that there's something to be said for the fact that their biggest problems, I felt like, were against the lesser teams. Like, they've gotten up for big games. They kicked the Nuggets' butts here. So I'll definitely be drinking some coffee, probably starting around 6 p.m.
It's just an IV of
I'll definitely be staying up for this.
Caffeine.
It's going to be fun to talk about this game.
So we'll get into we'll touch on the schedule, but the main theme is hottest Wolves takes here. It's our weekly staple that oftentimes gets taken out of context, and that's fine. These are the hottest, spiciest Wolves takes that we have. And after they're done with this Denver game tonight, they do come home for 5 consecutive games. If you want free Wolves tickets, Declan, if somebody out there says, hey, I'd like to go to a game and I don't want to have to pay for tickets, how can they do that?
Go to wolvesrealtor.com. Our friend Heather is giving away a pair of tickets on March 19th. That's a Friday night against the Pelicans. The Pels always give the Wolves some frustration, man. Those are always some big games. So if you want free tickets to a Wolves-Pelicans game on Friday, March 19th, you go to wolvesrealtor.com, register for those tickets, and then as springtime here is turning around, you're interested in buying a home, you're interested in selling your home, and you have no idea who to turn to, contact our friend Heather, diehard Wolves fan, Wolves season ticket holder. Go to wolvesrealtor.com to register for those free tickets and contact Heather for any of those real estate needs.
And maybe while you're roaming around the area, you can stop into Brixworth pregame in the North Loop. It is one of the premier places to go pregame for Wolves games, to get into the Nas Reed Hazy IPA, Detroit-style pizza, and great dry rub wings. They have some very creative dry rub wings. If you haven't stopped into Brixworth in the North Loop, check it out before an upcoming game. And if you see my guy Cooper in there, who owns the place, roaming around, go talk some Wolves with him too. Big Minnesota sports fan. Love our friends at Brixworth. And even for road games too, you can belly up. They've got the games on TVs, and you can bring some friends there too. With the weather getting nice, it's a huge sprawling patio too. I'm not sure if they've got that set up right now, but if they don't, they will pretty soon here with the weather turning to spring. All right, hottest Wolves takes. I'd love to start you guys out with this one here. And you know what? The more I think about it, I think I can factually prove that this is not even a hot take. But I'll give you the hot take, and then we can decide. Anthony Edwards has become one of the greatest three-point shooters in the history of the National Basketball Association. And not enough people are talking about it. I'm going to give you a couple nuggets here, okay?
Yep.
And maybe I will then disprove the temperature of the take with the evidence I'm going to present here.
Okay.
But I saw this from Owen Phillips on Twitter on unassisted three-point shots. So these would be step backs. These would not be like catch and shoot. It's obviously a lot easier if the ball is moving around or there's a pick and roll and the defense gets drawn in and LeBron zings it out to the corner and you have a wide open three. Mm-hmm. The top unassisted three-point shooter in the NBA this year is Anthony Edwards. He's making 40% of his unassisted threes. Again, these are the hardest threes. These are the ones where it's off the dribble, it's a step back, it is you going to work one-on-one on somebody, and oftentimes not much space between you and the defender, maybe a hand in your face. He's shooting 40% on those this season, just ahead of Tyrese Halliburton, who hit one of the craziest threes of the season last night, a 4-point play to win that game. Donovan Mitchell, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and Steph Curry are the only other ones over 35%. So only 5 guys are above 35% on unassisted threes, because it's usually a low efficiency, bad shot, quite frankly. And Ant has turned that shot, the high degree of difficulty 3, into an efficient, lethal shot for him in his bag. The evidence shows you that he should, and by the way, he's taken over 100 more than pretty much anybody else in the top 5 on this list. The fact that he's that efficient at the hardest shot is crazy to me. But then when you look historically and you take all of his three-pointers into context, in the history of the NBA, so he's averaging 10 attempts per game on just all threes, and he's shooting just under 41%. So high volume and high percentage make rate. In the history of the NBA, there's been 9 occurrences of a player taking at least 10 threes per game in a season and making 40% or more of those threes. Of those 9 occurrences, 6 are Steph Curry. 1 is Klay Thompson, 2022-23. 1 is Damian Lillard, 2019-20. And the other is Anthony Edwards this year. So when you lay the evidence out, I don't even know if it's a hot take to say that he is legitimately becoming this year one of the greatest three-point shooters in the history of the NBA.
So yeah, becoming, yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Or if I could phrase it, he is this year.
Yes,
this year he is one of the greatest three-point shooters in the history of the NBA.
Yeah, that defines it. Absolutely. Now it's going to need to continue, but where he gets credit too is he has built himself up to this. Like he is that's the thing about him. He can be certainly on the court immature at times, probably off the court as well. But the one place where he deserves a boatload of credit for being a mature basketball player, he has worked to get this good. Like he came into the league good, but we've seen, right? First overall picks or top 5 picks who are really good when they come into the league, but then do they improve their games? Not necessarily. Like this guy has spent hours honing and crafting and when it comes to the 3, made incredible strides. So I do think that there is in fairness to Ant, I think that there's a conversation to credit him and to be had about the maturity of him as a basketball player, which is really impressive as far as honing his game, where he's always adding something. And 2, when he does that, he doesn't just add something to your statement. He makes himself one of the best at that something.
It becomes like a force in his game. Yeah, just
Correct.
Thinking back the last couple of years. Remember 2 years ago, so the start of the 2023-24 season, and the first handful of games, he's showing off this new like kind of mid-90s Michael Jordan mid-range fadeaway bank shot. This super old school. It's like Kobe, MJ. It's almost like he spent the entire summer watching old mid-90s, early 2000s clips of Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant doing the little, you're kind of back to the basket, or maybe you're facing up and you drive in, you do a little spin, and he mastered that little mid-range game and the bank shot game from different angles. And then this year, you watch the first few games, he's toned it down a little, because he was taking the first 10 or 15 games of the year, he was taking like 13 or 14 threes a game. Very much James Harden with the Rockets from a few years ago, like a Mike D'Antoni system situation. But he clearly spent the entire offseason, and he was around Steph Curry and some of the great shooters in the league too with the Olympic experience, saying, I'm going to become great at shooting threes. And as you're watching it play out, it feels like when you watch a game and someone takes a step back 3 with a hand in their face, that's usually a bad shot for most players. Like maybe Kevin Durant, I laid out some of the guys. It's not a bad shot for him. We almost have to retrain the way our brains are wired watching him play, because I'll catch myself too, like, ooh, don't take that shot. Dude, he's making 40% of his unassisted 3-point attempts, which tells you he should just fire away. He should almost, and I don't know, 10's a lot per game, but he could probably push it even a little bit more if needed, as long as the percentage doesn't come down too far. So it's crazy. Again, 9 occurrences in the history of the NBA of guys shooting 10 or more threes per game and making 40% of them. 6 of the 9 are Steph Curry, and the other 3 are Klay Thompson once, Damian Lillard once, and Anthony Edwards this year. Insane.
Hot take on the surface, but then when you deconstruct it, break it down, it's more of a take.
It's like a fact.
It's an accurate
your
take.
hottest
It's
Wolves
an accurate
fact.
take. You're giving me an accurate take. But it's not as hot. You're correct.
Your hottest, your most accurate. We're gonna change the segment. What is your most accurate Wolves fact
Yeah,
that
good
you
luck
can
with
bring?
that. I don't like that idea.
Judd, what is your hottest Wolves take?
Mine is this. Julius Randle of late, actually before he got hurt and now, is playing really well. And probably more importantly, he's playing really well, fitting into what the Wolves do. But my hottest take is I still think it is going to be absolutely fundamentally necessary to either allow him to opt out of his contract or if he opts in to trade him. To keep Nas, yes. The other thing, though, is Julius strikes me as the type of guy who's doing a really good job right now, and partially because it's fun, of fitting the system. But he also knows if he does this, it's upping his value, right? Like now teams are going to look at this and be like, hold on a second, if you're doing that, okay, we have been fooled before. The next thing you know, it's a multi-year contract. And the next thing you know, you're sitting there in December of 2025, and it's like, oh, hold on a second. He signed a multi-year contract, and now he's back to being who he fundamentally is as a player. I don't want to take that chance, and two, I want Nas back. So I know that the perception and the discussion of Julius has changed, and it should. He's done a very nice job, but don't be fooled into making that alter the view of Nas Reed's future here and Julius thinking that this is for sure who he is going forward.
Okay, a couple things. So to summarize your hottest take, you would say, despite the fact that Julius Randle has assimilated perfectly, and they've now won 10 consecutive games with him, and he's playing the most effective basketball, that you're saying don't let that fool you. I would say this though. I'm gonna heap some praise on him.
Yeah.
Early in the season, he was very much, you could tell he had some trust issues with, he was kind of, I only trust myself. So I'm going to, if there's even a question on this possession, I got it, guys, right? And he would kind of play bully ball a little bit more. And that's been him throughout his career. Mm-hmm. But now that we've seen 75% of the season play out, and he's played 53 games, you look at some of the bigger picture numbers here. He's taking 5 fewer shots per game than he was in New York the last couple. So he has deferred. All right, that's cool.
Yep.
Anthony Edwards, you're going to get yours. Nas Reed's going to get his minutes, and other guys. And Jaden, Chris Finch talked, I think, at practice yesterday, that they're making a conscious effort with everyone healthy to make sure they're dialing stuff up more frequently for Jaden McDaniels early in the game against the Spurs, so that he's not just standing in the corner as the fifth option. Like, so all these other guys are going to get theirs. Julius is fine with it. We were kind of worried, is he going to get weird and cantankerous, and is he going to? He's loving being a playmaker. His career assist number is like 4 assists per game, and he's had a couple seasons with 5 or 6. The last few games, he's like hunting for triple doubles. He's joyfully, actively looking to get teammates involved. So I think we have to acknowledge that he has assimilated really well into what the Wolves' vision for this thing is. And if he continues to play like this and continues to be valuable, even if you say goodbye to him, you do need another big man. Like, you can't go into next season with aging Rudy, Nas Reed. All right, cool. Nas Reed's going to play 35 minutes. Like, Luka Garza's not ready and maybe never will be for that role. Mm-hmm. So as you try to figure this thing out, I guess my question is, would there be room under the second apron for a couple more years of Julius Randle if they go on a big run here? And I'm leaving it open. I know you're saying it today, but I'm leaving it open for the next few months.
I am skeptical if you give him a multi-year contract to come back here that the Julius that we are seeing now is going to stay. I've seen guys just like this revert in all sports.
But wouldn't he be better served if he's hunting for a new contract to like try to go get his every night at the expense of the team benefiting?
No, because I think on the surface, yes. But I think the answer is no, because like right now, he is upping his value by playing nice and by playing this way. What I'm saying is I don't trust it. And so like, and if the answer, more importantly, this. If the answer is it's not going to work to keep Nas and Julius from a financial standpoint, I'm not wavering from I'm keeping Nas.
Let's go down this path for just a second here, though. All right, maybe I can. Again, I'm not even sure if I'm convinced of this, but let me see if I can convince you of one of the 4 or 5 scenarios that could play out this offseason. I'm opening up. It's not quite the Dane Moore spreadsheet of glory, but we do have a budding Flagrant Howls spreadsheet of glory here too. And one of the scenarios for the summer is, let's say Julius opts into the player option, which is like a $30 million player option, whatever it is. The Wolves would still be $30 million below the second apron, assuming the Nas Reed opt-out, because he's got a $15 million player option. He's opting out of that to become an unrestricted free agent. So you'd be $30 million below the second apron with Julius still. You could re-sign Nas Reed for up to $30 million a year, and the question becomes, does his market eclipse 30, 32? Does someone want to give him 35 or something?
Sure.
If there's a market for that. They would then have to say goodbye almost certainly to Nickeil Alexander-Walker. But I don't know, that's a loss. But with the way Jalen Clark has emerged and Terrence Shannon Jr., you can absorb the loss of Nickeil Alexander-Walker a little easier than, say, losing Nas Reed to free agency. And I believe you then still have a taxpayer mid-level exception in there too. And depending on the way these pieces fit together, the biggest question would be minutes allocation. If Nas wants to play a certain amount of minutes or wants to start. But what I would almost say is okay, I mean, there might be a legitimate discussion of what's more valuable for $30 million a year, Rudy Gobert or Julius Randle, who's 2 years younger than Rudy Gobert, and then you go find some rim protection through another avenue. I think there's a bunch of scenarios open in the next 3 months.
Wait. Right? Now that's a hot take. So Gobert.
Well, it's a pontification.
I still think it's a hot take. So wait though. If your scenario that you just talked about potentially is Gobert gone, Julius stays, Nas stays.
I'm saying that we shouldn't rule out that scenario. We shouldn't rule out.
We gotta do an episode on this. That's interesting,
dude. There's 5 choose your adventure paths here.
Okay.
This
I didn't
offseason.
come with that. I just came with I am not changing my opinion on Julius necessarily and the plan, just because he's playing nice now and he's playing very well. And he did. Mm-hmm. You're right. I'm not discrediting him. I'm saying I don't know. I trust it. But if you're choosing an adventure that has Gobert out, I am all ears.
I think a lot, and we're guilty. I think we try to be as level-headed as possible here, but I think a lot of us, including us, jumped the gun watching the first 2.5 months of Julius Randle and all the different machinations of, if Nas Reed, if some of these lineups where it's Nas Reed and Julius Randle on the court at the same time, that's been I think a plus 5 points net per 100 possessions. So
I'm all ears.
There's a lot to be played out here, and I think it has to be considered too. Rudy Gobert looks refreshed after the injury, and he is still, the team has their best defensive net rating when he is on the court. He is still a very impactful defensive player and very, very valuable. But he is not the same player he was last year in a lot of different metrics. He is going to be a year older. He's had the back problems. So I want to see 2 more months play out and see. Let's see the Denver game tonight. Let's see him play the next, 15, 20 regular season games and see what happens. Okay, before Declan's hottest Wolves take here, boys, let's go across the street from Target Center to Kieran's, a great Irish establishment for those of you who are looking for a beverage.
Yeah, it's a great pregame hang, great postgame hang for all Timberwolves games. Kieran's just steps away. They have award-winning pub pours. That's right. You can't just pour any old beer into a glass. They do it the right way. They have great menus. They have great specials. They have great everything at Kieran's. And whether you want to come up with more hot takes, second apron, trying to understand all that fun language, do it at Kieran's. Just go steps away from Target Center for any pre- or post-game situation after Wolves games. Kieran's just steps away from the Target Center.
And a shout out to MSP Plumbing, Heating, and Air for powering Flagrant Howls this season, too.
Absolutely true. And look, you know what? Trust is the most important thing. And Sports Dad found out about the trust that can be gained because a couple of weeks ago, MSP came to my house. They looked at the furnace. The furnace was fine. The water heater and softener, not so much. In fact, they were both in absolutely terrible shape. And I didn't get any threats. It wasn't like your house is going to blow up if you don't do this. But I did get the old, it might be a good time to replace these things right now. I liked it so much, I said, absolutely. They came to my house, and because of that, I've got a couple of new appliances in my basement. MSP Plumbing, Heating, and Air doing a fantastic job building trust. That is incredibly important, too, because we're talking about things that you can't DIY. We're talking about things that you want to make sure that your home is safe and your family is safe. And at MSP, you're going to get that. The website, calmsp.com. Check them out. Again, they've got Sports Dad's trust. Now I want you to trust them. Call msp.com. Set up an appointment and make sure that your home is safe and sound, too.
All right, Dex, what is your hottest Wolves take?
I'm going to audible this a little bit, but it's still in the same spirit of the Timberwolves' playoff fate. My hottest take is the only team that the Timberwolves should avoid in the first round is the LA Lakers.
Wow.
That's the only team that scares me the most in a first-round matchup for the Minnesota Timberwolves. I think with Luka, which, by the way, we saw what Luka did to the Timberwolves in the Western Conference Finals last season. That team seems to be a little bit more rejuvenated. I like the Wolves' chances against the Nuggets. I like the Wolves' chances against Memphis. If it's Houston, I think that would obviously probably be most ideal. And they've played OKC pretty tough as well. I think with the combination of Luka being there, LeBron being, still LeBron James, that's the one matchup I think the Timberwolves would have a very tough time advancing through. I think they can actually upset a lot of other teams here in the West. The Lakers, on the other hand, are the team I would avoid, and that one would make me sweat a little bit in a first-round matchup. Outside of that, I like the Timberwolves' fate, but the Lakers are the one that scare me the most.
And LeBron for the next couple, the Lakers are going to be hard to gauge the next couple weeks because LeBron's doing 2 weeks off with a groin injury or a rest period, whatever you want to call it. And then there'd be the Luka PTSD from what he did to the Wolves and that first quarter of the first game of the series where he literally just ended the series. And they played close games. It was like, really? So there'd be some PTSD, but I will say the Wolves can throw a lot of different defensive looks at the Lakers. The Lakers lack size. So the Wolves could argue, especially with Rudy, Julius Randle up front, Nas, they've got some size that the Lakers may have a hard time handling too. But yeah, they are rejuvenated. The Lakers and the Warriors being fringe, sort of play-in fringe playoff teams, and then trading for Luka Doncic and Jimmy Butler respectively, and the Lakers lost a couple games in a row, LeBron out, and now both these teams are skyrocketing up the standings. It's like the NBA's last gasp for the old guard of superstars here. It's going to be fun to watch, but I would actually put the Warriors on that list too in terms of hardest matchups, because that's going to be a really high IQ, feisty, hard team to play against, and they've won 12 of the last 14 games too to kind of prove it.
At least the Butler trade makes sense. Disgruntled old guy, right? He gets traded, and I do think that if you go back, I do feel like he does give a pop to a team. At the end, he drags the team down, but at the beginning, he gives a pop to his new team. The Butler trade makes sense. The Luka trade's going to just impact this conference for a long time.
You're saying it doesn't make sense from the Mavericks perspective.
Yes, it doesn't make sense from it doesn't make sense from the Mavericks perspective. And if you're the Wolves, the Butler trade, it makes Golden State much better. Yeah. You don't like it, but you get it. But if you're the Wolves, or if you're a Western Conference team that's really competitive, don't you just look at the Mavericks and their GM and say, what,
Well, and dude, it's
you're
always
just idiots.
The Lakers always just stumble their way into a franchise solution.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Well, yeah. So go back to, you could even say Wilt Chamberlain, right? They always just, here's just another
superstar in his prime or at the beginning of his career. That's the thing. Kareem was at the beginning. He played 2 years or 3 years.
Kobe as well. We'll grab him. Well, Shaq. They wound up. What did they trade for Shaq? They traded. I'm trying to think of. Not a whole lot. It was not a whole lot.
That's a good.
Was it like Vlade Divac and some draft picks and stuff? But whenever that franchise is kind of floundering, maybe they're missing the playoffs, and oh man, what do we do? Kobe is old and makes a lot of money, and it took him a while to go. Oh, LeBron James wants to come to LA. Okay, here he is. Or boy, Kobe is behind the scenes demanding a trade to the Clippers because he wants out of the cesspool. Oh, let's just go get Pau Gasol and start another dynasty. The Timberwolves, up here in the frigid upper Midwest, 35 plus years of franchise existence, it's like once every decade and a half, you get bad enough and lucky enough to get Garnett in the draft and then Anthony Edwards in the draft or Karl Anthony Towns, for a few years.
Shaq was a free agent.
Okay, that's right. Yeah.
7-year, $121 million contract to leave the Magic for the Lakers. At least
Vlade was the Kobe trade.
Kobe trade to Charlotte.
That's right.
Charlotte drafted
Vlade, put
him.
your cigarette out. You got to hop on a plane to.
Vlade's
Charlotte.
a great smoker. One of the if we were to do an all athlete smoking team, Len Dawson,
Mark Grace,
Vlade, hockey players,
Sabonis Senior.
Oh yeah,
Arvydas
Sabonis.
Senior is so damn good too. That's exactly right. Yeah,
All-time
sure.
smoker.
Guy Lafleur, Denis Savard. Guys used to smoke between periods.
Well, the old the Len Dawson, the old Chiefs quarterback picture from was it halftime of the Super Bowl?
Yeah, Vikings.
And he's got like a soda, or was it a beer? It was like
No,
a
it's a
soda
soda.
and
It's a soda.
a cigarette.
Yeah.
What a king.
I'm trying to think of it was a name brand soda at the time. I think it's gone now. But yeah, and a smoke, and that's just it.
Yeah, was it Sundrop?
Shasta?
Hold on, let's
it
look
was
this
something that was name brand because I remember just howling when I saw that picture.
Here you go.
Hockey player.
Len Dawson. Dude, he's making love to the cigarette in this photo.
Well, yeah, because he's stressed out. He's relaxing himself.
I can't see what the soda is, but
I think Judd might be right. I think it might be a Sun Drop.
Sundrop. Oh. So,
Can you imagine now? JJ McCarthy, halftime.
Patrick Mahomes just
KO, hold on a second. What's going on, JJ? Gotta rip a heater.
gotta rip a dart.
I always envision Vlade Divac like backing someone down in the paint, puts his cigarette down for a second on the hardwood, goes up for a hook shot, goes to the free throw line. Jokic looks like he could put a heater back when he's got a couple cocktails in him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So speaking of Jokic, so tonight, Wolves and Nuggets. The Nuggets right now are the 2 seed in the Western Conference. Jokic is putting up 30, 20, and 20 games. It's just ridiculous. And then the Wolves are just a half game back of the Warriors for the 6. And they are a game and a half clear of the Clippers for the 8. But yeah, tonight's one of those games where, it's on the road. This is a tough one. If you can get it, awesome. Yep. After this, it's Orlando at home, Utah at home. You got the Pacers who are feisty, and then back-to-back home games against the Pelicans.
Mm-hmm.
Pacers on the road, feisty, but Phoenix, Detroit, Denver's a tough stretch. But you've got a ton of home games.
17 games left. Is that correct?
It's 16, right? They got to go 13 and 3.
Okay.
I think 13 and 3 now for the 50-win plan to officially take shape. Not quite as unrealistic and daunting as last week when it was they got to get to 16 and 3.
Positive Phil about to take a bow if this happens. We'll have to wait and see.
So let's say it's a loss against Denver tonight. Let's give them a loss in one of those Pacers games. That's 2.
Mm-hmm.
They might lose at home to Detroit, and then they have another game against Denver. We'll give them on that's a third loss in there somewhere. And then you finish with Brooklyn, Philadelphia, Milwaukee, Memphis, Brooklyn, Utah. You'll probably drop one of those games. I mean, they could drop 10 of these games if they fall asleep.
They'll drop one of them.
But that's 4. So that would get you to 49 wins right there. But it is, if they beat Denver tonight, we're on 50-win watch.
Yeah.
We're on 50-win watch.
But the conference is still daunting.
Yeah, think about next year once, because you look, I mean, Phoenix is going to probably trade Durant, but then retool around Devin Booker. So they'll find a way to be competitive. Dallas, who the hell knows what that's going to look like? So we probably have to put them in timeout.
Yeah.
But hell, the Spurs are going to take a jump when Wemby comes back healthy. The Jazz have a ton of ammo and some players. I wouldn't be shocked if Danny Ainge gets aggressive in some way. Blazers with a bunch of young talent, and they've played really competitively lately.
How hard should we assume that when the transition, God willing, finally takes place, that Laurie and A-Rod, with expansion coming, are going to work their asses off to get this team moved to the East? It makes
Eastern Conference or
Eastern Conference.
Okay.
Eastern Conference. To the East. No. They're not going
Don't
to New York.
scare me like that.
They're not going to play on the East Coast. No, I'm saying with expansion coming to, let's just say, Seattle, Vegas, okay?
Those are West. You can't put those teams in the East, so we have to
put those
take
teams in
one team, right?
So at least one team. Now you got a few candidates, but I would just love to see the Wolves in the Eastern Conference.
What's the math? So you'd have 32 teams. Right now it's 15 and 15 in each conference, but you'd be adding 2 teams to the West to make it 17 and 15, which means one team from the West would have to go East to make it 16 and 16. And if we did this exercise where you pull up a map, and geographically, I think technically Memphis and Oklahoma City are a little further east.
Yep.
But Minnesota makes way more sense from a divisional and travel standpoint.
Milwaukee and Chicago.
Indiana.
Yep.
Detroit.
Amen.
The rivalries.
Plus,
it is weird that the main rivals for the Wolves are like Denver.
Right.
Oklahoma City, I guess.
But somebody has to go. And if I'm the Wolves, and I think the Wolves are going to be far more proactive with Mark and Alex, I am raising my hand, and I am politicking that I would love to go East.
Alex, let's start the politicking right now. Okay. If you're still consuming this episode of Flagrant Howls,
I'm sure they've thought of it. But I mean,
call the sports dad. He can be your Eastern Conference.
Yeah. Don't
ambassador.
Move the team East. I didn't mean that. No. Just
Phrasing.
Move them to the East. Yeah. Move them to the Eastern Conference.
Love it. All right. Those are your hottest Wolves takes here. Flagrant Howls. Please, if you haven't already, click that like button and the subscribe button on the Score North YouTube channel. And you can also help the show grow by giving us a 5-star rating and a positive review on Apple and Spotify. And then we'll be back for a little Kyle Theige episode tomorrow to recap whatever happens late tonight. This is a Timberwolves lifestyle podcast.